My name is Sophia McKenzie. I am the Mmes Program Coordinator, and today our application workshop will be presented to you by myself, our director, Donna Nemeth, and our National Science Foundation Scholarships in Science, Engineering, Technology, and Math data technician, Mareike Duffinger-Mero. We've also got an MMES current student, Kayla Budd, on the call, and we may be joined later by our MMES student representative to answer some Q&A questions at the end. So I just want to start off again by welcoming everyone and thank you so much for joining, taking time out of your schedule. I hope this means that you're considering applying to the MMES program. Maybe you've already started, so that's very exciting. We're looking forward to receiving those application materials between now and March 1st, when I will share all of those folders with our admissions team and they can start reviewing those later next spring. So to start, we can go ahead through our agenda. We'll probably begin with a little background on the MMES program for those of you who might not be familiar. We'll also go through the MMES website and kind of navigate some of those important tabs and information that you might find useful while you're applying. Then we'll go through tools and skills for success in the program. So some background information and education prep that you may want to have coming in. Then we'll go through reaching out 101. So contacting advisors and faculty members before and during the application process, and some tips and tricks for getting best responses and feedback from them. Then we'll have some time where we can talk about personal statements and give you some examples of effective personal statements that we've seen over the years. And then a final application checklist. We might go through that a couple of times just to make sure that it's clear on what we're looking for to see a complete applicant folder. And then finally, we'll finish off with some Q&A. If you have any specific questions about your application or general program questions, that'll be a good time to save those questions till the end. And then we've got myself, Donna, Mareike, and Kayla to be able to answer any of those questions. So I will go ahead and introduce our MMES director at this time, Dr. Donna Nemeth. She is a professor of biology here at the University of the Virgin Islands. She's specializing in ichthyology, aquatic animal husbandry, and functional morphology. She has been an awesome MMES director for the past couple of years, and she'll take it from here and discuss a little bit of the history of the MMES program and kind of give you an overview.
Great. Well, welcome, everybody. It's great to see some familiar names out there. As Sophia said, I actually moved to St. Thomas in 1997 and then came to UVI in 2003. So I've been at UVI about 20 years now. And so I see a lot of names in the chat and names in the photos of some of my former students. So it's great to see how many UVI grads have gone on to either work with faculty and graduate students or to apply to the graduate student program itself. And so I was here when we first started writing the grants to try to support the development of a master's program. And that was finally approved in 2006. And we started our first cohort of students, so a collective group of students who goes through the entire first year of coursework together. And this year, in the fall, we began our 16th cohort of students. So it's been a really exciting period of growth over the years. We've had 183 students since the beginning of our program, with 110 graduates so far, and currently 46 students that are actively working on their theses in the program. So it's been a super successful project and has really enabled us to extend the educational reach of the university, and also to really prepare a lot of individuals that have gone on into many positions around the Virgin Islands, as well as nationally and internationally. And you'll hear a little bit more about some specifics in a little bit. But I just came back from the Gulf and Caribbean Fisheries Institute conference and met a lot of people who were very excited to tell me how wonderful the MMES alumni are that they have had a chance to work with. So I'm really, really proud to finally be a part of this program officially. And I teach the professional development course in the first year of the program. Let's see, you want to switch to the next slide?
Give me, there we go.
There we go. So I'm not going to read this whole bit of information about the program overview, but we are housed within the College of Science and Mathematics, which is where all of our biology and marine biology faculty teach for the undergraduates, as well as our graduate program and our a number of our other research branches. And we work with many of the faculty in the Department of Biological Sciences, as well as researchers and faculty within the Center for Marine and Environmental Sciences or Studies as well. So we've got a lot of different people with different names and lots of acronyms, but a very cohesive group of educators and researchers that work in all areas of biology and marine sciences and environmental sciences. And our focus is in marine and environmental studies, and we work across land and sea with an emphasis. Most of our researchers right now are in the marine side of things, and we have some wonderful connections with our local branches of the Division of Fish and Wildlife and Coastal Zone Management. So the organizations on island, the government organizations that are responsible for natural resource management. So we train students both for the practical applied job of resource management, as well as a more academic approach for students who may want to go on to complete a PhD and continue on in research sciences. And our emphasis is really on the Caribbean region, although many of the aspects of resource management and ecological sciences and obviously data analysis, all of those are going to be applicable in any other region. And here we've got written out within UVI St. Thomas, we've got our Center for Marine and Environmental Studies, which also has a educational outreach component, the Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service, and the College of Science and Mathematics. And we're really excited about the way that we integrate so well with a lot of different organizations on the island, and also visiting organizations and visiting members from other institutions. As you can imagine, this is a really beautiful place to do work, and we have access to many of the different ecosystems right outside our Marine Science Center. And so it's a very attractive place for a lot of people to come down and do research. And so I think we have more opportunities than many places for collaboration and for being able to work with a variety of different people who are doing their research here in the Virgin Islands. You can go to the next slide. So the program overall, we call it a cohort-based program because we only admit students in the fall semester. They will complete a set of 4 core courses in their first year. All the students take the same courses in that year, and we don't admit any in the spring semester. So that group of students, usually around 16, becomes a really close and collaborative group throughout all the activities in that first year. The program is designed as a 2-year program. So someone who comes in and who has a connection with a faculty member and perhaps a project that has already been defined as part of a larger research project that the advisor is working on, those driven individuals could complete it in 2 years. We find that a lot of our students take closer to 3 years, and I don't think of that as a disadvantage, because oftentimes it's because the students are able to take advantage of opportunities, either working with faculty in other areas. Some travel for the summer and go to other institutions or other locations, sometimes doing things that are completely unrelated to their thesis, but building their toolbox of skills and organisms that they're able to work with. And then we also offer opportunities for students to earn income through being a teaching assistant, and also through being research assistants. So a lot of times students really are excited about the opportunities that those projects offer to them. And so they may or may not be able to focus or may not want to focus all of their time on their research. They're going to split that up into a number of different activities and take a little bit longer to finish their degree. And currently, the students are all going to, after that first year of coursework, during which they develop their literature review and their project proposal in that second semester, they're going to then enter their second year working on a hypothesis-driven research project. So they'll be writing a master's thesis that's based on original research that they conduct in the field or in the lab with their advisor. So in that first year, the students complete 4 core courses. So it is the equivalent of 10 credits. Natural resource management, which currently is being taught by a member of the Department of Planning and Natural Resource in the Division of Fish and Wildlife. So we've got somebody who is actually doing the job, coming to help our students develop skills in that. The bulk of our science and kind of biologically focused work is in our physical and ecological processes course that covers land and sea environments. We have a quantitative skills course called Research Methods and Tools. So that's an R-based statistics course with lots of practical applications. And then the students also complete 1 hour a week with me in professional development, which is sort of a cross between homeroom, where we keep you on track and let you know what's going on in the program, and then also to help you to develop the skills and the products that you're going to be using to work towards your eventual thesis proposal and be able to defend that at the end of your first year. And then in the second year, students register for their thesis research and/or elective courses that complement what they want to learn how to do. And those electives could be internships that they do with other organizations or people from off island. They could be independent study, in which they are doing a research-based study that is not necessarily their own research, but they're learning new skills or new topics. Sometimes we offer selected topics courses if we have a visiting faculty member or somebody who offers something that's unique to their skill set. And then we have a range of other electives that could include things like seagrass ecology or geographic information systems, or help me out, Sophia, what are some of the other special
Scientific
topics we've
writing.
had? Scientific writing we have right now. We also offer a number of our undergraduate courses as graduate electives. So a student who is wants to enroll and learn more about coral reef biology or marine invertebrates, they could take a course that they're taking along with undergraduates, but they're going to have an additional set of projects that raise that up to a graduate level course. And coming soon, we are in the process of getting a professional science master's degree approved. So you could do a Master of Science degree, which is the research-based thesis product, or a professional science master's would have students in that second year completing electives as well as a professional internship experience. And then their product would be more of an applied, perhaps a operations manual or a management plan for territorial resources or locations or organisms or marine protected area studies or fisheries studies. So someone who wants to go to work in more of a government organization or nonprofit organization, they may be able to choose something that fits that transition a little bit better rather than doing a research-based thesis. And then we've got a lot of names up here of faculty and researchers that are engaged in a variety of different topics. And I think Sophia and Marika will give you some more details about where to find all of the links to these individuals and the kind of projects that they're working on. But we have an emphasis on coral reef ecology and coral reef biology, including coral disease, which is also shown on the far right under marine parasites and disease. So that includes fish diseases, ectoparasites, ciguatera, as well as coral diseases. We've got a number of researchers that are working on reef fish ecology, spawning aggregation research. We've got individuals who are working on seagrass ecology and sargassum ecology as well. We have a new faculty in terrestrial wildlife. Her expertise has been in bats and bat diseases, but we're waiting to see what she's going to focus on here. Some of our faculty also are focusing on aquaculture and fisheries related research. We've got sea turtle biologists, faculty working on population genetics, sandy beach ecology, quite a few people who are working on environmental restoration with a focus on mangroves and seagrasses and corals. We've got a new faculty member whose focus is on coral restoration, and he's developing a full coral nursery to hatch out coral larvae and then expose them to different conditions as they grow. We have an oceanography lab and are working with a couple of faculty that have expertise in oceanographic gliders and underwater robots. So that's something new and really exciting. We have some marine chemists. We've got Dr. Grimes working in watershed ecology and blue carbon and carbon storage, as well as modeling and lots of different things that come up as students come and have new interests, and we have new faculty coming and going all the time that can mentor and work with students to develop projects. So as you're thinking about UVI as a possible place to go to graduate school, we really encourage you to do a little bit of research into these individual areas that are ongoing research topics at UVI and the faculty that are working in them. You'll have a much stronger application if you've already corresponded with, talked to the different faculty, and have an idea of what you are interested in focusing on. If you can develop a relationship and perhaps even a potential partnership with one of those faculty who's looking for students and who has research funding for graduate students, you'll be in a much better situation, both mentally, knowing that you've got a place to land, but also a little bit more confident that you're going to be more competitive for a spot in next year's cohort.
Thank you so much, Donna. That was an awesome overview, and great to point out all of those topics that we've got to study. We'll go through navigating the Mmes website, just because it's probably the first place many of you started. And if you're looking at our program and other programs, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, and it's good to figure out where you need to look to find things. So if you go to the UVI website, you might see our tagline. It's historically American, uniquely Caribbean, and globally interactive. So I just think that encompasses a lot of what we are in our program as well. Like Donna said, we do have a lot of interactions and collaborations all over, so that's pretty exciting. So Marika pulled up the UVI website. You can find it at mmes.uvi.edu, or you can go to uvi.edu, use the little search bar at the top. That magnifying glass is very helpful if you're looking for anything. We've got a good search feature on our website, but specifically on the, you can go to academics, schools and colleges, or find a program. Like Donna said earlier, we're in the College of Science and Math, CSM as we call it. And we've got our mission there, our different departments. We're in the biological sciences department. And then we've got the, where are we? Bachelor of Science. We should be accessible from there, but
apparently not.
I don't think that we are in biology. We are a separate unit within College of Science and Math. So you might have to go to program to see that. There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
Well, we're back to where we were, but that's the website.
So there we are. And then in the top left corner, the lime green in this section, we've got a drop down menu. And so we'll go through on our slideshow each one of these tabs. So the first one being admissions. And we've got a little note about where you can, that's basically our checklist, that 1 through 7, and we'll go through this again at the end. But we've got a program application, and that is where your statement of purpose will be, general information. If you've contacted an advisor already, that's where you'll put that, what you're interested in terms of funding, research, or teaching assistantships. So that's our program application that comes directly to the MMES office. The letters of recommendation are the same. It's a form. So there's a link to a form that prospective students will share with their recommenders, and then they submit that form. So it's their letter of recommendation plus a couple questions. So that is accessible by link on our website. Curriculum vitae or resume, official transcripts, and those now go to the main UVI admissions office. And you can have those sent officially there. And if it's your degree has not been conferred, then prior to enrollment, a transcript with conferred degree will be required. But for review purposes, just a regular official transcript is required. And if you went to a college where English wasn't the language of instruction, a TOEFL or English proficiency exam is also required. And then we've got an online graduate application fee, online graduate application. So this is the UVI application, and that goes directly to our UVI admission. So we do have 2 separate applications. And then once you've finished, well, you can finish all of those things and then pay the application fee. Generally, you have to have that number 6, the online graduate application, to generate your student ID number. And that's what is used to pay the application fee directly to the cashier. And that information will be sent to all applicants as well, but just an overview there. So that's our admissions tab. And then we'll go into cost and funding, which does not have this table breakdown of total tuition prices. I just sort of did some math and figured out these estimates because on the website, it takes you to just the general tuition cost page, and it's got undergraduate rates as well. So this kind of just narrows it down to only the graduate rates. So you can see those totals there. Each semester, it's about $250 in fees. There is quite a difference between resident and non-resident tuition rates. And you can find information about residency requirements on the registrar's website. There is guides on there on who would be considered a resident and how to get that tuition break. There's also some links to financial support information on that tab. All of our students have some sort of funding, whether it's a teaching assistantship, research assistantship, scholarship. We also do have students with federal loans. So we encourage everyone, if you're a US citizen, to fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And that is required for our National Science Foundation STEM scholarship. And there is more information about that on our website, but that's really important to qualify you for that scholarship as well as any loans. All right, and graduation requirements. That would be a tab that you want to visit just to see the course descriptions. So Donna mentioned those core courses that you'll be taking in the first year, and it goes more into depth detail about what you'll be learning in those courses. So that's interesting tab if you want to learn more about that. Donna discussed the research already, that tab, so I don't need to go into details on the topics, but that is where you can find the links to the directory pages of each of our faculty. So check out the research tab we've got it broken down by topics and list of faculty under there with their directory links. I want to point out also the student tab. So we highlight our current students with photos and a little bio. So if there's a student who is interested in something that you're also interested in, feel free to reach out to them. You can find them by using their first and last name separated by a period at students.uvi.edu. And it's also, if you're curious about the program and want a firsthand experience from one of our students, I'm sure many of them would be willing to share if you reach out. On the same token, we've got alumni and their email addresses. You can find the title of their thesis project, as well as who their advisor was. And so similar thing, if there's a topic that you're really interested in, feel free to reach out to them and, search for them on LinkedIn, see what they're up to now. Our alumni are in all sorts of awesome positions here in the territory, throughout the Caribbean, and beyond. So encourage you to check them out there. And then finally, the assessment. The goal of the MMES degree, students will walk away with knowledge of these physical and biological processes across a land sea gradient, natural resource management, being able to identify issues and come up with solution driven projects to address those issues. The skills is to identify and complete a research project from start to finish. And you'll do that both with your thesis and also the capstone research project, which is a project that all of our first year students collaborate on together during the spring of their first year. And there are some really interesting outcomes that come from that. There's always an outreach component, a research component, and a management component. So those three products are interwoven into the core courses in the spring semester. And it's kind of almost like a trial run of a thesis project. And it's collaborative, so you get to work with all of your cohort members and get into the community. So that's a really cool thing. Also, science communication is an emphasis of our program. We always try to incorporate some science communication workshops and speakers throughout the year, especially in the spring, while students are working on the capstone. And then also, we do have opportunities to apply for funding that we share through the program, and then external funding opportunities are also shared with students. So finding ways to apply for funding and grant proposals, that's also something that our students learn to do while they're in the MMES program. So that's our website. Mostly check it out. I encourage you to click around, and if you see any errors or things that are missing, let me know, because I can add that in. We've recently upgraded our website, so there may be a glitch here and there. So I'll go right into tools for success. So on our website, we do have recommended courses that all applicants we like to see on the transcripts, or the admissions team likes to see on the transcript. So these are here listed for you. And if a prospective student is missing one of these, we encourage them to maybe take it during the summer before they begin, or sometimes, the admissions team does take a holistic approach on viewing applicants. So if you may not have a class that's recommended, if there's something else that can sort of take that place, or can show them that you can be successful in those classes, then that's definitely considered. One thing I always tell students when they're applying is if they don't have any experience with R, which is a statistical program that our research methods and tools course is based in, it's a good idea to become familiar before you begin the program. We do some introduction at the beginning of the semester, but having a little bit of knowledge on that coding program is extremely beneficial. So if here's a resource here, but it's a link, but I can share resources on our tutorials maybe that you might want to consider doing before enrolling. Research background, participation in research experience for undergrads, internships, working in professors' labs, anywhere where you started a project and seen it through to completion, written a report, that's really important to express in your CV and possibly your personal statement. That's important to our faculty to see that you've had some research experience. Also critical reading of scientific literature. That's another area where it's emphasized a lot in those core courses. So if you've had a lot of experience, then that's going to make that first year of classes that much easier for you. Professional skills like time management, communication, email communication, following up, phone calls, those sorts of things, presentation skills, those are all just going to be going to help you succeed in the program. And then extracurricular activities, emphasizing these in your application is also helpful. We really like to get to know our applicants as individuals.
So this is very important in your process of applying, and I found it very successful for me as well when I applied to UBI and other projects, is reaching out to faculty. And so we already showed you a slide that shows all the different research projects and faculty. So that's a good like navigational map for you to start looking into these aspects. So just first and foremost, the most important is think of your interests and career goals. So what do you like the most in the field of marine sciences? For me, it's like animal behavior and conservation. So I go and start making the list of those things that I like. And then based on that, research all the faculty that fits this criteria. So, you know, once you find, say, Dr. Donna Mmes, she has done something with fish that I really like. Okay, let me look up Donna Mmes a little bit more. So from there, look up their focus areas of research. And with that, I definitely recommend using resources like ResearchGate, Google Scholar, LinkedIn, their lab website, and then start digging, like really dig as much as you can. So I would even recommend reading some of their publications, and preferably anything that's 5 years older or the oldest, and then less than 5 years. That way you can capture more of like their current research. And then from there, decide what you like and what you don't like from that, and have a better idea of what their different projects are, because hopefully knowing what they've been working on the latest, you can then see, oh, hey, there's a gap in your research. Maybe that's a new research project that we can expand on for, probably even your thesis project. And yeah, from there, decide what's the research that sparks the most interest in you, and write it down. So, you have your list of different faculty and the research projects that interest you the most. And then from there, use that as a way of drafting your first email for reaching out to faculty. So here's just kind of key points that you should consider when drafting your email. And remember, I like to put it in best way. This is your elevator speech. So sell yourself and show the professor that you've done your homework on them. So you could put little examples of, and this is one kind of example of mine. Hey, Dr. Rick Mmes, I researched you and I found it very interesting that you do work on movement ecology of fish, and that aligns well with my interest of understanding the behavior of fish and how it's affected with, climate change and human impacts. So you could put those things in, right? Or you could put in, Kayla would probably put, she likes also corals. Look up Marilyn Brand's lab and see that they're applying these different techniques to reduce the impacts of stony coral tissue loss disease on all the corals. So that's another bullet point you could put in. Or you could, once you've done all that, say you can put questions of like, or, a little bullet point of, hey, you've now used all your research and I've seen that you've used that for the application of conservation efforts. So that's like, different ways of how you can look up the research, but then or their work, but then tie it in with your interests and what they've done and how you could, bring that in as a conversation starter. And then, of course, put in, I like your interests, and then these are my career goals and how they align well with the faculty and your own personal interests. And then obviously put in afterwards your background. So like, Sophia and Donna said, oh, it's really important to say, I already took this class, or I done this kind of research, and that will be very useful as in your letter and moving forward. And then obviously put other things that you might think that are useful, but these are kind of the key points. And now we have a little example. So in this example, we had a student that reached out to a faculty, and they said that they've did a research project, and that gives them a taste of what they like working as an intern and doing a research project on sharks and fisheries in the Galapagos. So that was very useful. Then you can look up the professor and say, hey, now that you've done it, they said, now I would like to set up a quick phone call to discuss my background and potential opportunities in your lab. And also say that you've researched their website, right? Again, that's what I said. Research their website, research their lab, and here is what I'm interested in. And obviously put in your interests. So you have things like, I want to develop my research skills, or I've kept an open mind in order to discover my own interests and obtain skills that will be useful in my future. And then say things like, my research interests include small-scale fisheries and elasmogram population dynamics, distributions, and ecology. I also believe that communicating findings to the public is of particular importance, especially in regards to conservation topics. And again, interested in impacts of small-scale fisheries on elasmogram species, and then show things like what projects you're working on. So here's some 3 major bullet points and some examples. Donna, do you have anything else that you might want to add on something that you found interested in a similar letter?
Let me unmute. You don't want to come across as being like, okay, I read your one description and now I'm just going to repeat everything that you said. But I think Marika's point that you may or may not have strong interests as to what you want to do, but read what they say. Think about how that relates to what your interests are. If you're able to express anything about what you'd like to do with this new knowledge or this new approach, Marika emphasized, interested in applying that to climate change, or maybe you're someone who wants to take that information and then use that for managing fisheries, or trying to relate something about yourself to what the faculty is doing is always helpful. You may not have a really strong idea of what that is, but think about, who are your current mentors? Could you ask someone whose lab you're working in? Could you ask a favorite professor, hey, I'm trying to reach out to this person and I'm trying to think about how to make a better connection with my interests. Can you help me to put this into words? So don't be afraid to use the people that you know and respect now, because you want to make a good impression on this person who isn't going to have a lot of time to read your, you don't need to say a lot, but you want to communicate to them that the things that you want to do, the goals that you have, you think would benefit from the experiences that they can offer through their research program. That's really the connection. Faculty want to have students who are going to be interested in their project and be able to use that information to do something that they want to do, not just show up and be like, all right, what do you got for me to do? A big part of, becoming a graduate student is, if you haven't had to do it before, thinking independently and thinking about, how is what I'm doing right now going to help me to get to where I want to be? And that's a big process. It's not something you might know where you want to be in 5 years right now, but it's good to start thinking about it and get some feedback from people whose input you trust and value.
That's a good point, Donna. And I think Kayla and I literally just had a conversation about it yesterday, how, our career path has changed and how our letters have changed from like when we applied to like now applying to different things. But like, to some extent for me, some of my long-term goals have stayed similar. It's just they've expanded further from applying to UBI to now being an alumni of UBI, because I've gained all these experience and skill sets. And I've also realized what I'm mostly interested in. So you hone in your skill sets, but yeah, have a general idea of what your long-term goals are, and then what kind of, minute research projects you're interested in. That way that shows, that you have an idea of what you want to do, and that will help you out with your, reaching out to faculty, but also your career path and applying to the MMS program. So yeah, and I even, now moving forward, I also submitted my own original cover letter that I, sent out to Rick Mmes when I still was starting to look up the MMS program. And I, showed up that what I've done, what my interests are. So my interests are, and still are, I want to understand animal behavior, and I want to see how that's affected by their environment and, the anthropogenic stressors, but then finding out conservation methods, which I pretty much wrote in my first sentence. And then, I showed told Rick that I've done an REU in Costa Rica, even though I wasn't trees, but I got a research experience under my belt. And then I did another internship on bacteria that's found on fish. Again, more research experience. And then again, reminding Rick, I like your work and I really want to expand on it. Can you tell me more about it? And then, here are my interests and here's my CV.
I might also add that at this stage in your career, many students are thinking about, what organism do I want to work on? Maybe you love sharks, or you love sea turtles, or you love fish, and that's, or corals, and that's the thing you really want to study. Think about, I mean, whatever your passion is, you keep that. That's yours. You don't have to give that up. But think a little bit more broadly about the kinds of work that you've done. Like Marika said, hey, I worked on, trees. Well, but if you've surveyed the diversity of trees and looked at communities and how they're just, how species are distributed, those are applicable to all kinds of things. It's not limited to trees. Think about what kind of work that the faculty that you're reaching out to does. You might want to try to address, okay, I really want to work on sharks, but for example, Rick Nemeth works on movement ecology. So maybe you're not going to be able to tag sharks, but if you learn how to tag fish, you will be able to apply that to working on sharks, maybe in your next project. So being really tied to a particular organism or a particular type of study might mean that you're not going to find the right fit here. But if you're open to aligning, hey, I want to learn these skills, I think they're going to help me move towards what I want to do, maybe this is a great place for you.
Mm-hmm. And on, building off of that, like my own personal experience, I was still trying to figure out all these things, but I was, when I was choosing between Rick Nemeth and Paul Jobs as being my advisor, there were two different projects that I would have, could have been doing for my thesis, but in hindsight, I thought working in Rick's lab would be better for me because it was applying more different research questions of my interest, but I was also going to be learning a lot more skill sets that I thought will be more applicable down the line because I wanted to work with marine mammals at some point in my life. So I felt like, learning how to tag animals, learning how to analyze that data, which is not as easy as I thought it would be, it was very useful in the long run. So again, think of what are tools and skills that you can learn from either project, from different faculty, and how you can add them to your toolbox moving forward to be applying to a different organism or different similar projects. But yes. Okay, and then just, brief overview now that we've talked about that. Just a few points to remember when reaching out to faculty, that professors are busy, so they can't always respond to right away, but just send them a courtesy email the following week, and I'm sure they will, respond to your email at some point soon, but hopefully soon. I know they're busy, but they're ready and eager to accept new students and talk to new students. And then once you've built that relationship and it's been established, start talking more about current and future research projects. Again, you've already done a little bit of homework on them, so now that you can talk to them more, ask them about their different research projects, and think of, okay, now that I know this, what can we do to expand into a better thesis project? Also talk to them about funding opportunities. Do they have research assistantships? Do they have it to be a full year assistantships, including summer, or is this just for the academic year? As if they have other funding opportunities to cover research costs, attending conferences, doing professional development activities. And if they don't, like, talk about opportunities to work together and finding funding. So like see if you can work with them on the graduate research fellowship program from the NSF, or apply to another grant with them. That's going to be very helpful once you start school, but also in your application process, because if you already apply for the GRFP and you're lucky enough to be a winner, then that will help out very much with your application and coming in with funding. And then use also the opportunity to get some help with your application to the MMES program. And Don already said it, looks much more stronger if you say, oh, I already talked with X person and we've already defined a few potential research projects in XYZ, then that's going to be very helpful in your statement. So ask for their help. But then also use this opportunity to think about the lab that you want to work with, and if you think that's going to be a good advisor. So think about their mentoring styles, the research project. Are you guys going to be a good fit to one another? And I will put these words of advisement that I've learned. Finding your thesis advisor is like finding a parent. So think about that, and is it going to be a good fit for you? And then also use the opportunity to look up their lab and reach out to current and past students. That way you can have a better idea of the work lab dynamics and if it's, again, going to be a good fit for you. And ask about other questions. How is it living in the VI? Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it cheap? I don't know. Use the opportunity to learn more about the MMES program and the faculty you want to join in. Alrighty. I will pass the baton to Sophia and Donna on this one.
Thank you so much. It was good having you give those specific examples as an MES alumna. So I do receive the statements that's part of the program application, and so I get feedback from the admissions team on what they're looking for. So we included our current prompt. It did change from last year. It changed pretty recently. So we are asking for students to describe their unique perspective, background, identity, interest, or talent. And we kind of want to know who our applicants are as a person. It's not just, figuring out if they're prepared academically for the program, but are they prepared to be in the MMES program, which is, unique compared to others because of our location and challenges we have living on an island. So what challenges, setbacks, failures did students encounter in their life that may have given them a skill that they can bring to the MMES program? What can you contribute because of something that you've overcome in your life and how those things have shaped you? And if you're in communication with current faculty, this is a good place to include that in there. Some of our faculty, if you reach out to them, they may say, I'm not sure yet. I don't know what my funding is going to look like in the fall. Please apply. And then by March, when they're reviewing the application, my cat is really going crazy. They might have a better idea, and then that's the time when they'll be able to review those statements from prospective students who want to work with them. So it's not the end of the world if you don't get a confirmation from a potential advisor that they're willing to take you on as a student. That may be something that they're unsure of due to current students in their lab and can figure out later on. So those are any other statement shining points, Donna, that you might want to mention?
I might point out that if you don't live in the Virgin Islands, it is a very different place than where you probably currently live now. And if you have had experiences traveling outside of the continental US, if you have worked in somewhat remote environments, if you have worked in tropical island communities, those are really good things to highlight, because we want our students to succeed not only in their academic work, but we want them to feel like they fit in here, that they are happy in this community, and that they are flexible and resilient and ready to roll with whatever comes your way. I think I see Marek and I, this is not an easy place to live. It is a fabulous place to do research. It is a fabulous community within the Mmes and the biology and marine biology program. I think students, from undergraduate to graduate, the faculty, we are a really close family, but there are a lot of challenges living here. Even things like, having to deal with the experience of hurricanes, of regular power outages. And so if you have done research in a remote place, if you have lived in a place that has had some challenges, letting us know that in your personal statement helps us to feel confident that when you get here, you're gonna be comfortable and you're going to be able to get the most out of this program. So this is a place for you to not only tell us about your kind of professional research goals and experiences, but also to tell us a little bit more about you and the experiences you've had, and help us to see that this would be a good fit for you in all kinds of ways. And if you have questions about that, you're more than welcome to reach out to, I think, any of us on this talk and ask, so how can I do that? Or go to your mentors, how can I emphasize how my experiences have, show that this is a comfortable and an ideal fit for me.
Yeah, and then we've got some examples, I think, to share as well, where you kind of where we've highlighted some key points, kind of, you want to discuss your career goals in your personal statement. You want to go through those experiences. So it's similar to your elevator pitch email to the faculty, but expanded upon and a little more fleshed out with more information about those setbacks you may have encountered, unique perspectives, and how you're going to apply those skills you've learned in the MMES program. Yeah, so this one, they started off with career goals. They've got an interest in coral reef monitoring and restoration. Then their experiences, they go into participating in the diversity project, which is an REU, what skills they gained from that. And then also maybe something that something that changed their mind. They didn't have an interest in pursuing a PhD, but meeting an advisor maybe changed that that perspective. So that's always interesting to see what influences decisions and where you may see growth in the future. While we're talking about personal statements and other experiences that you may have had with other advisors, this is a great time to really stay in touch with those people, because if you're going to be asking for letters of recommendation soon, reminding them of the interactions that you've had, showing how passionate you may be to pursue a graduate degree. Those are all things that that will come across in those letters of recommendation, which are really weighted heavily by the admissions team. That really makes a difference if you have strong letters of recommendation. So I encourage you to stay in close contact with those people that you'd like to request those from. And then adversity setback, the hurricanes Irma and Maria, and what they had to overcome to get through that campus. And many of you may have been in college during the pandemic. Those are that's a huge obstacle to overcome for everyone. And so being specific on how it impacted you and how you overcame, and maybe how you've changed as a person is really cool to highlight in a personal statement. And yeah, unique perspective. So being from UVI, Black scientist from the Caribbean, we really want to increase the participation of Caribbean students in marine sciences, especially here. Our program was developed based on a need for natural resource managers in the territory, and who better to do that than people from the Virgin Islands and the greater Caribbean. So that's something that our admissions team really wants to is very impressive. A student from the Caribbean who wants to stay and continue furthering those environmental goals. All right, and our next statement, this is another one where, starting with career goals is a good place to start. And if you're not exactly sure what your career goals will be, that's okay. And our faculty realize that most people's trajectory is not a straight line. So maybe you have one goal and you get derailed and do something else because something came into your you had an experience that changed your mind, and that's interesting and valuable. So it's not, no one's going to hold you to these career goals and we expect them to change, but just seeing what experience you've had thus far that may lead to those career goals shows, a level of dedication to accomplishing those goals. So I think seeing that linkage is really important. And then again, a unique perspective. This person was from the Caribbean and then did their undergraduate degree in the Pacific Northwest. So they kind of have two sides, two different oceans. So that's kind of cool to highlight. So if there is a unique place that you studied, highlight that and how those skills could be transferable either to here or complement it somehow. Yeah, and then whatever unique identities, if it's academic, personal, family related, this is the time to kind of tell your story and help illustrate how your life so far has prepared you for graduate school and pursuing your career goals. Any other info on personal statements, Donna, Marike, or Kayla?
Yeah, I think with the career path, we even have an example of a student that studied history and in their undergrad, and then they went and volunteered as sea turtle nesting place, and they fell in love with sea turtles and they're hooked, and now they're stuck with sea turtles forever. So that's, a good example you can put in. It's like, I did this, I didn't know I was going to do this, and then suddenly I'm in love with sea turtles, and that's what I want to do, or all these other things. So those are good examples to put in. And yeah, was your, like Sophia said, I guess your personal background, like show who you are, you know, especially with like survival mechanisms. If you have managed to live in multiple places, like that's really good character building for you. And, you know, it's going to help out with your application, especially with the Virgin Islands, that it's, you know, a different kind of place to live, but beautiful place to live.
The
Alrighty.
best to live. All right. And oh yeah, and then again, if you've identified your advisor, include that in your personal statement. So final application checklist, feeling good, done all 7 of these. Maybe you started with a reach out email before even beginning the application. Maybe you do that later on, but remember to follow up on that same thread that you sent the reach out email to faculty. You know, follow up, you know, once a week, every 2 weeks if you haven't heard back. Hopefully you won't need to, but this time of year there's classes and research and field work. So I think following up on that original email so they have that background is key. And then your program application, letters of recommendation, plan ahead. People love notice when you're going to be requesting this. So share that link early and often. You may need to remind those recommenders, and you can check with them to make sure they've submitted it. You can also check with me. I can look into that for applicants to see how many letters have come in for you. Also, same curriculum vitae, the CV or resume. Send those to the Mmes at myuvi.edu, which is also on our website, but that's where those will go. Official transcripts, TOEFL scores. Don't forget that online graduate application to get your official applicant ID number, which will eventually become your student ID if you're accepted and enrolled. And then if you're ever hired by UVI, it will be your employee ID, which it is for me. So I've had the same ID since I was a undergraduate student. I came on exchange my junior year. So I have the same ID all the way through, which makes it nice. So that is our full application checklist. And then think about funding. You can look in your local community. You can do searches on environmental organizations, nonprofits, Friends of the VI National Park. There's a lot of smaller organizations. Like we have a student who has funding through the Louisiana Pipeliners Association. We've got students who have small nonprofits. You know, every avenue that you can take for funding, we encourage it. Every little bit counts. Even if it's a couple $1,000s, you can use that for thesis supplies or towards your tuition. So definitely search for funding opportunities, complete the FAFSA so you can be considered for STEM scholarship and other loans. Our faculty generally offer their research assistantships to students, so they've got those details. So find out what the details are of the funding. How much toward, is there anything for tuition? Is it only a stipend? Do you also have research funds? And so some of those things may become clearer, you know, when in the offer, and some faculty know exactly what they're going to be offering now. So it just kind of depends on grants and where faculty are at with their cycles. So, but feel free to ask those questions. Also, the Graduate Research Fellowship Program, which Marike mentioned earlier, look into that. I believe it's October that the application was due, but consider it to apply for next year because you can apply in graduate school as well. All right. Yeah, so keep looking for funding. Oh, we'll go discuss a little bit of our our alumni and where they are. So post-graduation, we'll start with Colin Howe. He has been working towards his PhD at Penn State University. He should be finishing up very, very soon. I should put his Instagram in the chat. You could probably find him on Instagram. Marika, you might know it, but he's got some really cool resources actually on his Instagram for applying for graduate school. So look out for him. And Zola Roper, she is our territorial marine debris coordinator. She works in the VI government in the Department of Natural Resources. She does a lot of great outreach events, beach cleanups, and research collection. So she's got a really cool job. I'm very proud of her. She graduated, I believe it was 2018. So, and then Jen Dai Antoine graduated in the last year. She studied sargassum with Dr. Edwin Cruz Rivera, and now she works for Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service, which Donna mentioned. It's our outreach branch of the Center for Marine and Environmental Studies. So she's a program coordinator, again, doing a lot of outreach, summer programs, learn to swim programs, youth ocean explorer. She is doing a fabulous job, and very happy to have her still here at UVI, which a lot of our alumni do end up staying. They stay on as techs or program coordinators, or we've got one student was a lab manager upon graduation. So there's a lot of opportunities to stay here at UVI in academia. As you can see from the figure in the middle, academia is one of the highest sectors where MMES students find employment, and many of our students find employment before they even graduate. They're usually they have a job lined up. We've got one of the highest employment rates post-graduation than any other marine science program I've seen. It's close to 90% of our alumni are working in the marine science field, which is very, very cool. Jan Alexis Berry is a port sampler with Fish and Wildlife, also part of the Department of Natural Resources, Division of Fish and Wildlife. Him and another one of our students, Kaylee Schlender, is another graduate. They were working together, so sitting on the dock, waiting for the boats to come in and marking down what those catches were. And then Christine Tartaglio, she was working on marine mammals, sea lions, and she did a really cool sea lion hearing experiment under Dr. Paul Jopsis. And then she had some really strong committee members with those marine mammal expertise that really helped her complete that project, which was a great undertaking. She's the assistant curator at Coral World, and she worked there throughout her MMES degree. And finally, I've got here Kaya Carrion Panucci. She was one of our students who joined us from Puerto Rico. So she had been sailing and fishing and grew up in and around the waters of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And her project was on Ciguatera in Red Hind. So she is running a sailboat with her partner and their dog, but their marketing and their website, they're both marine biologists. So their tours are very ecologically friendly. There's a lot of education that goes into how they interact with their guests. And so it's not necessarily academia, government, nonprofit. There's a lot of opportunities for really creative career paths for our students. And we've seen that time and time again. So that's very exciting. Just some highlights on a couple recent grads that I want to share. And then our also graduate of MMES who's on the call, Marike, she's going to go into her career path, which kind of, I'll let you go ahead and take it away, but you've done a lot. So let's see what you're up to and what's next for you.
Yeah, so just want to highlight again, like the MMES program is very good master's program, and a lot of students come up with the knowledge and skills to succeed in the professional world of marine science after graduating. So for me, my own personal experience started by working as a research technician in Rick's Mmes lab. So I was able to continue doing similar work in movement ecology, from fieldwork tagging to data analysis and publishing research. as well as conducting other fish behavior research and helping students with their theses and so forth. Then I moved out of the Virgin Islands to the Florida Keys to work as a fisheries biologist for Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. There, I was able to expand more of my skills in acoustic telemetry and movement ecology, so I continue doing that kind of work, but also contributing to new and long-term fisheries projects in the Keys. And once that contract ended, I came back, but started working now again for UVI. So once you're part of MMES, you cannot leave as much as you want to. So now I've been working as a data management technician and DIE consultant. This is mostly part-time, so this allows me to do other things, but I love UVI. I'm so grateful to be part of the community and stay on and help the MMES program be better. So with that, I've also now been working full-time as a quantitative modeler for the Northeast Fisheries Science Center in NOAA, but I do it remotely from Colorado. So in that project, I switched gears a little bit. So I've now been working using this model that calculates the risk of whales getting entangled by fishing gear, and then also finding management actions to reduce its impacts by working with stakeholders throughout the US East Coast. So even though I switched a little bit of gears from fisheries, I'm still working with fishermen along the US East Coast to, learn about their fishing behavior and habits, but also working with them to find solutions that benefit both the whales and the fishermen. I also had the awesome opportunity in between to work with Ocean X. So I did the Young Explorers program for 2 weeks, and I sailed on board the Ocean Explorers from Monaco to the Netherlands. I conducted a little bit of research, learned about the different equipment on board, which was super cool, and also did some science communication. So I learned more about how we can communicate our science to the general audience, which is really important to have. And so, yeah, I've continued working with NOAA, but I will say that now all my skills since I started with UVI and finished UVI, from field work to heavy computational analysis and coding in R to conservation and stakeholder engagement, has been very useful for me to succeed in my career, which now has given me the amazing opportunity next to start a PhD at the University of the Azores, studying whales and their ecology, their behavior, and do some conservation. So I'm really, really excited for this opportunity. But, I'm very happy that I did the MMES program, because every single skill set and fieldwork opportunity and conservation internship that I did have really given me a lot of tools in my belt, and I'm able to apply them in new opportunities. And I'm hoping it's going to be the same thing for any MMES student. And I even talked to friends, actually managed to get a friend from Boulder, Colorado to apply to the MMES program. And now he's in a new cohort. So I'm really happy about that. So I'm sure you will find it too at UVI. But yeah, I've now been able to work in academia and hold, government positions, both in state and federal levels. And yeah, I don't know what else we want to add, but that's my own story. And I know, Kayla is around the corner too. She's been very successful as a UVI student, and there's a lot of students that have managed a lot since graduating and have been able to combine different things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Kayla's also now employed by UVI. Yeah, so I'd like to thank you for your attention. Really appreciate it. I did put a couple links in the chat for surveys, if you wouldn't mind, after this event. If you can fill out one of those surveys, it helps us with just feedback on making this event and events like it in the future even better. And here's a QR code you can scan to get those links as well. So at this time, let's open it up to any questions you may have. Feel free to unmute yourself or pop a question in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. And for those of you who don't have any questions and need to go, thank you for attending, but we'll be here. I can stay on till 7:30, 7:45 to answer any questions. I know there's got to be one question.
Hi, I did have a question. Maybe I misunderstood, but was I hearing that someone was saying to apply for funding before we apply because it makes our application stronger? I was just confused because someone was advising me that it was okay for me to apply for funding after I get accepted to an institution. So I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, that's a great question. And I will say that it's a little bit of both. Donna, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think the primary source of funding that a student might come in with would be the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship. And that is a 3-year fellowship. I think it's over $34,000 a year, covers your tuition, covers salary. And that kind of a acknowledgement of your skill and your competitiveness, if you came in with that, you would have a lot more opportunities to work with many different people because you've got the funding and they don't feel like they have to have the research funding to support a graduate student. So some faculty may have already accepted students on the grants that they currently have, and they don't have new funding for a new student in the upcoming year. But if a student came in and they had their own money, they might say, oh, I'd be happy to include you. I just didn't have money to support you. So that's the primary one that I think a student might come in with. The other possibility is that if you were a non-US citizen, you might have funding from your home country that was able to support you when many of the research grants or the program grants that we have would not be appropriate for a non-US citizen. So those are the two situations where I can think of where if you had money in advance, that would be helpful. I don't think that there are many other grants that you would be able to apply for before you came. And so you're also not going to start your research until the second year of your graduate program. So you've got a year to apply for a variety of different fellowships, some of which are going to be through our program if you come here. Some of them are going to be grants that we have for, say, the NSF STEM fellowship, which is based on financial need and academic excellence. So we give 6 of those a year. So if you fill out your FAFSA and you don't have financial support from anywhere else, you're a great candidate for that. So those are some things that you can do coming in. But no, it's not that typical that you're going to have many opportunities to apply for funding before you arrive. The main one, I think, would be the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. And we've had some students come in who said, you know, I applied and I didn't get it, but then they felt much more experienced and ready to submit a second application after they had, you know, they've identified their advisor, they have an idea of the project they might do, and they feel a lot more confident in applying for the second time around. So that's just a couple of suggestions of how you might approach that. But no, there's not, we very rarely have students who come in with any kind of funding source.
And during the application process, some of our faculty during those kind of email communications back and forth, a student coming in may have an offer from faculty that they will be funded that first year. And sometimes those are usually included with the offers of admission. So our faculty will kind of include those research assistantship offers with the admission offers. Does that answer your question, Emma?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking it. Does anyone have any other questions?
Hi, I had a question.
Sure, Nick. Thanks. Go for it.
Yeah, I was wondering what other institutions, I know you mentioned Penn State as being a place that you have an alumni, but like I was wondering if you could know of any institutions where you guys have like a relationship where students can do like a learning exchange with, or is that something possible?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's very possible. We've had several students go learn lab techniques or research techniques or field techniques at other schools. And a lot of those partnerships come through advisor connections. Off the top of my head, I know Kaya Carrion Benucci, who was on the boat. She went to a lab in Florida. She had a committee member there who she worked with for several months in the summer and learned a lab technique, and she was able to get credit for that experience as well. We had someone go to a lab in San Diego for sea turtle research. And those are sort of informal, just connections based on student and faculty collaborations throughout the country. The Penn State is the Bridge to PhD program, which I believe we're going to be changing. I don't believe it's with Penn State anymore. And I don't have the information on where that Bridge to PhD program or how that's going to continue. But we do have that program, which Marilyn and Kristen are the PIs on. So they would have that information. I can get that to you. And then the other thing I would say is, oh, it just out of my head. I might have to come back to that.
Yeah, I can't think of other formal relationships we have, but we have had a lot of students who just, because of the other members on their committee, their connections with their advisors, they have developed those relationships. If you're thinking about a transition to a PhD program, we don't have a lot of that's not a common thing. It's just been certain things that occasionally we'll have a program with similar goals that has said, hey, we think your students might be a great fit for this transition. We'd like to develop this relationship.
I know some people in Dr. Marilyn Brandt's lab quite a few people have done like a learning exchange type thing with Woods Hole. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe that's something that you want to take a look at the research faculty and see who they've published with multiple times, because they're likely to have a relationship with those people if you want to do some sort of collaboration.
Good point. Yeah, University of Texas at Arlington is another place where a lot of they have a great choral lab. So some of our choral students have gone there to work with one of Maryland's collaborators. And then I do have records on where our alumni are, so I can share, those PhD programs that our students have gone on to, and maybe there would be some connection there. Good question, Nick. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I'm probably going to send you a follow-up email about learning about the students who move on to the PhD programs. So thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, and even moving, once you select your committee, you can even try to have UVI alumni as your committee. I know it's happened, like whether they're working as current technicians or like as now that they've graduated, but they have another opportunity somewhere else. So that's another way of you building your network and hopefully turning it into, your next career step after graduating from UVI. So it doesn't seem like something you should be stressing out about right now, but definitely it's good to think moving forward of like, what else can you do so that things are better set up. But, as Sophia mentioned, your careers paths are never that straight. So things will change around and develop as you move forward. So again, don't try to overly stress out about right now. Better concentrate on applying to the MMES program and succeed in it once you're in it.
Great. Any other questions?
Hi, good night. This is Deshaun.
Hi.
I was one. I'm not sure if anyone mentioned it. Well, asked before. I heard you mention the professional masters
Mhm.
supposed to come on board. So do you have any like more specifics on what it would entail?
So that has been approved all the way up to through the graduate council, and it has to remain to be approved by the board of trustees and the president. So we expect there won't be any problems with that moving forward. If it's approved by the start of the fall semester, then students who are enrolling in the fall could have the option to choose that option. So you would, as a student, would complete the first year of coursework along with the entire cohort. And then starting in the second year, they would enroll instead of in what we call thesis credits, where you start your research data collection and analysis with your faculty member, you would enroll in something called a professional internship experience. And that professional internship experience would be something that is coordinated with a mentor in one of the agencies or organizations that you are interested in gaining expertise in or may want to eventually work for in the Virgin Islands. Currently, we haven't set up any specific internships in those organizations, but you have an advantage being here in the Virgin Islands that if there was an organization that you wanted to work with, we could start that process now or during a student's first year of saying, okay, here's something we'd like to move forward with. What could we develop that the student could work on in your agency? So if, for example, you said, I really want to work on fisheries, or maybe you say, I really want to work in marine protected areas, or maybe you want to work on something to do with debris and marine litter management, we could align you with those organizations and we would start those discussions with them as to what could they offer in terms of a place in their organization where you could develop the skills that would help you to move forward. And I think at this point, that means that what that looks like in terms of whether they actually, they may be willing to hire a student to do specific work and you could be paid during your professional internship. A student who's already working in, for example, Division of Fish and Wildlife, they could apply for the master's program and then have a specific project they're working at Fish and Wildlife, they're being paid by Fish and Wildlife, and then they will do their internship experience with a specific task that has to be something that they would present both in writing and orally, just like our other students would do that for their research. So potentially, if you were employed by them, it could just continue on and you would continue to be employed, but you would be able to apply that towards your master's degree. So I think it will be something that it should be a very individual experience that a student says, these are the things I want to develop. This is the organization that I want to do it at. And we help to facilitate that. Years into the future, we may have very standing kinds of relationships with those organizations, but we're starting this new as early as this fall. So if you want to be our guinea pig and you have some ideas, I'm sure that we will be developing that as we go, and it will be something that's developed to suit the student and the organization that they are choosing to work at. And you can absolutely come and talk with me more about this. I can show you the proposals that we've submitted as to more details about what that would look like.
Great question, Sean. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, and one more question. So I remember the slide when you indicated like the areas of study where you have professors, doctor professors in. And I recall they had fisheries and aquaculture. What if I'm not sure what specifically in the field of aquaculture do they like researching?
So right now we don't have faculty who are specifically working in aquaculture at UVI, but for example, Dr. Sinai Habtis, who was a former UVI faculty member and who's now the chief of fisheries at Division of Fish and Wildlife, he has several projects that are related to aquaculture, as do some of our colleagues at the on the St. Croix campus. And so we have had faculty mentors in those areas who have supervised students on St. Thomas, or they travel to St. Croix for the second half of their degree. Dr. Haptis is going to be coming to speak to the fish biology course at the end of the semester. So that's an opportunity for you to sort of see like, okay, here's someone whose research areas focus on that. We also have the new School of Agriculture on the St. Croix campus, and they are developing expertise in aquaculture. So that expansion may also provide our students with colleagues who could be supervising projects on either campus or be committee members in that particular area.
And one specific example of a current student who will be graduating very soon, she was working on lion's paw scallops and potential for developing a fishery for those aquaculture in the field here, which was really great project, and so far she found them to be a viable option for growing and selling the lion's paw scallops.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
And so
and-
that might be another thing, you know, if your interest is more in the research side of things, or it's more in the applied management side of things, you know, you could go either way. And I think it will be possible for students who are applying in their first year to not necessarily commit to, am I doing research or am I doing internship? Might be able to develop some of those, you know, refine some of those choices and what that might look like in the first year. Or during the time between applying and deciding whether or not you're going to accept.
Mhm. Great. Any other questions?
I did have another question. If we reach out to a faculty member and they say they are accepting students, but they have a limited number they can accept, and they don't know how many people will be interested in working with them. So like if I apply to the MMES program, then if that faculty member can't take me on, does that mean that I can't get accepted to the program, or can I get accepted to the program and then try again to find a different faculty member?
Very good question. Yes, that does happen a lot, and it kind of depends on the number of applicants and whether or not the admissions team can see the student fitting with another faculty member. So if a student applies and they're very set on only working with corals, you know, their personal statement says this is what I want to work with, through communications, if they're dead set on something, and that coral faculty has only 2 spots in their lab, and those are filled by other candidates, and there isn't room in that lab, the admissions team might look at other faculty members who maybe have room in their lab and try to fit that student in somewhere else. And sometimes there may not be the right fit that year. We can hold applications if faculty wants to defer the student to the following year when they may have more space. That's an option. But Donna, do you have anything else to add to that?
I was going to say, we definitely have had students who we say, you know, this looks like a great student, a great fit for our program. Oh gosh, they want to work on sea turtles along with 9 other students, and Paul can't take that many students. And we might say, you know, we may offer admission to the student and say, Dr. Jobs has offered his one, research assistantship to another student. So therefore you will not be able to work with him on sea turtles, but we'd still like to offer you a spot if you are still interested. And at that point we can continue discussion that helps you to decide whether or not it's still a good choice for you. But it doesn't mean that we would say, oh, sorry, no turtles, you're out, we're not going to accept you. If you're competitive, we will absolutely, we have certainly offered a spot in the first year in the cohort to the student, but then with the acknowledgement that you're not going to be working on turtles because the person who could be your mentor is not even available to be on your committee. And then that would be up to you to decide, okay, I could do something else, and we will help to coordinate, that conversation with other people, for sure.
And on that note, just like a good reminder is the Mmes program is small. So like, even if you can do this particular research project, blah, 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 like you still have the opportunity to help out everyone in their research project. Like personally, like I did fishery stuff with Rick, but I help out and I went out with a sea turtle team so many weekends. I helped my classmates with collecting plankton for their research project. I've done coral nursery work. Like when I graduated, I was able to say I've done 20 different research projects because the program is small. So don't feel like you're going to be left out completely just because you couldn't do the one sea turtle RA ship. You could probably still do it for your thesis, but be funded in another lab as an RA. So then you'll be even stronger candidate coming out because you have more skill sets under your belt. So, my own personal recommendation, keep an open mind because it is a small program and you're going to gain a lot of experience regardless, and things change around. So don't feel, that you have to be just stuck with one thing. And that's what, Donna and Sophia mentioned beforehand. Think about what can you do or how many things you can contribute to while you're there. So keep an open mind.
And we've certainly had students who have applied and said, I really want to work with, marine education. And then after a couple of months in their first semester, like, this really wasn't what I was thinking, but I love this group of mangrove people that I've been hanging out with. And I really would think I'd like to do maybe some more outreach, but from the mangrove perspective. And Dr. Wilson Grimes has a research assistantship. So things do change. It's not unusual for things to switch around in a student's first year where they find a better fit. But I think the caveat is that we're small, right? So we don't have a lot of options. And if some of our faculty have, they have plenty of students and they just literally don't have the time to dedicate to mentoring another person, it wouldn't, if they don't have the money and they don't have the time, they'll be honest with you. They'll let you know what the options are, and they may be able to suggest other people whose research or types of studies might fit with your interests. So that's another good reason to be a little broad in your personal statement. You don't want to say, oh, I love everything about the ocean and I would love to study anything. That makes it hard to align with someone. But if you say, I'm really interested in organismal ecology and the movement of organisms, or I'm really interested in disease, but whether it's fish or corals, both of those are, I'm really interested in this larger concept of disease. There may be more opportunities for us to say, oh, that student would be a great fit with so-and-so if Tyler can't take them or Marilyn can't take them. We have, we will internally make some suggestions or look at some different options. So, being clear about your interests and kind of where you want to go with things, and being open to, you know, being communicative with the people in the program, we can absolutely, you know, we're not going to abandon great students just because they don't have the right fit. We will look at who has options. And sometimes, you know, we have a faculty member who has now moved to Maine and is still working on sargassum, still has funded projects. And, you know, if a student applies and says, I really want to work on mangroves, but there's no opportunities there, we'll say, hey, you know, there's a project in sargassum or seagrass that might be of interest to you, and no one has applied for that. And so you might say, you know, I never thought about that. Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. So, so we have those kind of communications throughout the process.
Thank you so much. It's so helpful.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, unless there are any more burning questions, leave it for a moment, we can wrap it up. And just want to thank you all again for attending, and hope you got some good information here. So feel free to reach out to us, and if any questions come to mind, we're here, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you during the application process.
And a reminder, I think you put the links in the chat for the kind of post workshop survey. They may seem like something else, like, okay, I don't need to do that, but those are things that are really helpful to us, because we get incentive and support to offer things like this when we tell a granting agency, hey, our program wants to increase the number of students from particular areas of the country, or more Virgin Islands students. When you come to this kind of a workshop and you respond and say, hey, that was helpful, that's really great for us to go back and say, hey, we had 16 students come and they said that it was something that made them consider applying to this program more strongly. That means they're going to support us again. So encourage you to please take that moment to go in and complete that survey. It's super helpful to us to continue to be able to offer things like this.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you,
Hey,
Donna.
thank you, everybody. We're so glad you all came.
Thank you.
Please feel free to reach out and contact any of us with further questions.
Yep. Have a great night.